If you want to become an entrepreneur, you have to be ready to face every single shadow you have. It's the deepest healing experience you could possibly sign up for in this lifetime.
Welcome to Purpose Pivots, conversations about aligned change. I'm Irina Young. I cannot wait to welcome Emily Schickli to this conversation. Emily is the founder of Mind Body Dharma. She's a speaker, a nervous system educator, and an intuitive guide who helps women in tech and corporate pursue their secret dream. In addition to her coaching community, the Compass Club, she facilitates in-person breathwork ceremonies and hosts well-being workshops for companies like Google, Meta, Microsoft, and more. Emily, thank you so much for being here.
Ah,
Unofficial bio detail is that you're my coach. And everyone should know that because you're awesome.
thanks. And it's honestly, it's just such a gift to then see you stepping into your power and leadership as a coach yourself. So cool.
Ooh, step into your power. I feel like a good place to start could be your definition of purpose because there are a lot of definitions out there.
Ooh, great one. Yeah,
Ooh.
so I think of purpose as a moving target or a verb versus a noun. So oftentimes I think people get in their heads about like, oh, I gotta find my purpose. Like, what's my purpose? Is it this or is it that? And like, what if I get to this thing and I don't actually love it? And is that really my purpose or did I just follow some other random should, right? So I think of purpose as more of like a state of being that we cultivate, and it's something that is alive. It's not just
Mm,
this finite end result. You get to it and I don't know, you figured out the secret of life or something.
yeah.
So when people ask me like, okay, well, how can I start to find my purpose? I like to talk about it as just following the breadcrumbs. You know, what's one little intuitive hit that comes through? Can you say yes to that? Okay, cool. You're in the act of feeling more purposeful.
So, taking that into account, can you tell us a little bit about your background?
So I was born, no, I'm kidding. Uh, we'll go all the
Let's
way
hear
back.
it all. We want it all. Tell us
Right,
everything because then we'll know your
exactly.
human design. Ooh.
That's true. Okay. Well, I could start there. I am a 3-5 manifesting generator with sacral authorities. Basically means I am a multi-passionate. So my life path to find purpose is varied. I've done a lot of different things. Started out in creative writing, explored education, teaching, and then teaching, writing, and then eventually found my way into ed tech. And I was there for about 10 years. And somewhere around the 5 year mark of working in my tech career, I hit a really intense burnout. And this wasn't just stress induced, it was also accumulation of some chronic illness. And at that point in time, when I was working 10, 11, 12 hours a day, my nervous system, my body was just like, nope, we are not doing that anymore. And so I hit this catalyst moment where I really had to look at my health, had to look at my well being, had to look at what I was even doing with my life. And that sparked my adventure in
Mm.
really cultivating a deeper sense of true fulfillment and satisfaction.
Can I ask, working a lot, obviously super intense. I do think sometimes when we're in the thing that we're meant to be on for that moment, there's also a lot of working. So did you know
Yeah.
then that like this isn't for me? Or were you like really loving it?
It's a good question. I wouldn't necessarily say that I was loving it, but I
Mm,
wasn't hating it at that point either. I ended up staying in my job for another 5 years and
hmm.
that whole career. So it wasn't that I got to this point and I needed to blow everything up and quit. And that's kind of my thing actually,
Yeah,
is
it
that
is.
you don't have to blow up your life in order to start to cultivate a deeper sense of purpose and a deeper sense of fulfillment. And I think there's the conscious layer and there's the unconscious, right? So
Hmm.
consciously, I was like, what do you mean? I'm in my career. I'm in my 20s.
Hmm.
I'm doing the thing. I want to be successful. I want to be making an impact. I've gotten pretty good at this coding, email marketing job, and I kind of fell into it as maybe not what I dreamed about doing in my whole life, but the pay was nice. I liked my coworkers,
Hmm.
like the external reality seemed fine.
Hmm.
But when we go through a health crisis,
Yeah.
right? There's something happening underneath that surface level. And I hadn't gotten to the connection point yet.
Mm-hmm.
And if we think about it from a spiritual perspective, a lot of people find the connection point in their Saturn return.
It's a Saturn return.
Yes, for those of you who are not astrology buffs, like before your eyes roll back in your head, it's basically when you're 27, 28, moving through to 31. There's like this little period of time where the slowest moving planet in our solar system comes back around to the same placement it was at when you're born for the first time. And that happens actually every 30 years. So we're going to have another one, maybe three if we're lucky. So that first moment is interesting from a spiritual perspective because it's the planet of career. It's the planet of
Mhm.
purpose, for
Oh.
lack of a better word, right? It's the planet of how you show up, what kind of work you do in the world. So oftentimes people go through this transit and they come out doing something completely different. Just ask your friends. Where were you? How were you feeling when you were like 28, about to be 30? People go through like existential crisis, career shifts, things like that. So I
Huh.
was navigating all of that
Mm-hmm.
and it compounded from a more like 3D life perspective.
Mm-hmm.
When we're ignoring the things that are underneath,
Yeah.
we can only do that for so long, right? We're not a Mary Poppins bag. And so at a certain point, things are going to bubble up and we have to look at them. So at that moment in time, that was that for me. And it just happened to, from an interesting spiritual lens, correlate with the
Mm-hmm.
Saturn return, which is kind of fun to think about.
That is very interesting. So then,
Hmm.
unfortunately, there's this health, or fortunately, I mean, looking back, right,
Right.
you might be like, that's what led you to where you are now, but that stuff's never easy. Do you feel like that was the moment you're like, okay, I can't ignore this anymore, something's off? And did you
Yeah.
attribute it to the burnout and the job? Like, tell us about the moment where you were like, something has to change.
Yeah. I remember it was one I had just transitioned from a previous company into a new company, and I
Mm,
remember seeing my manager at the old company start doing crazy things with what she was not eating. She was suddenly like gluten-free, dairy-free. She was on this like little health journey, and I remember at the time thinking, "Whoa, that's really extreme. Yeesh. Like I'm glad I'm not doing that." Get to the next job. And I'm starting to realize, like, wait a minute, all of the things she was talking about, I'm
mm,
actually
mm.
experiencing. Huh, maybe I should look at that. And another
Wow.
friend of mine had really intense chronic illness, and she would tell me about what she was navigating. I'd be like, oh, I, that's an illness? I just thought everybody feels this way. And the
Wow.
more I started talking to my friends, my loved ones, I started to get this like mirror moment of
Mm,
reflection back to me that, hey, actually something is off. And I'm my own advocate, right? We're our own
mhm.
best advocate. And if I'm not going to look at it, no one is going to do that for me.
Right.
And so I started the very long process of calling all the doctors, doing all the tests from both a Western medical perspective. And then when that didn't yield a lot of answers, I started exploring acupuncture and naturopath, holistic medicine, Chinese medicine as a way to start to figure out what was going on because I really
Mhm.
I wanted an answer. I was a good
Yeah,
student. I was in academia for a very
that's
long
right.
time. You know, I'm like, there's got to be an answer to this
Yeah,
problem.
yeah.
And yeah, it really took me through this journey of like unearthing what was
Mhm,
buried, and in the process, I realized the direct connection to the
mhm,
emotions that I was repressing, the stress that I was shoving down on a daily basis,
yeah,
and the unprocessed experiences from my past that were showing me that it was deeper than a quote unquote health issue. There was something else here
wow.
that my soul was really asking for me to wake up and look at.
And would you say those were the breadcrumbs? Like, is that
Yeah.
you found acupuncture and then you started
Hmm.
digging there, so that's
Yeah.
crazy. So, there's the health side, which is very personal to you as an individual and taking care of your body, and then it's how it manifested in a pivot, right? So,
Hmm.
at what point were you like, I'm interested in applying some of this and sharing it with others. Can you tell us about that? And maybe a lens you could take is like maybe a first small action that you took, because that's so much of
Hmm.
what you're about.
Yeah, totally. So one of the practices that I started playing with that started to gain traction for me from a health perspective was yoga and meditation.
Mm,
And I was doing these like 15-minute yoga videos on YouTube.
mhm.
Hello, YouTube. How meta. And
Whoa.
right, I know. Whoa. Yeah, back
Well,
in the
it's
day.
not
And
that.
yeah, right, right. It's not meta.
It's
Sorry
not
about, yeah,
actually.
it's YouTube. Okay, we're good.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah.
All the things.
Right.
So I was practicing yoga for my body, but then there was like the 2 minutes of Shavasana
Mm,
meditation at the end, and I started to actually crave that more than the
mm.
yoga. And so I started doing longer meditations, and then in those meditations, I started seeing things and remembering how, like, I've always been an intuitive kid. Like, I saw spirits growing up, but I had kind of shut it down because
Mhm.
society,
Shut
being
it
a
down,
human.
Emily.
Right, exactly.
Shut
Can't be
it
too
down.
weird. Yeah,
Don't be too weird.
right, exactly. Lock, keep
We've
on
come full
locking.
circle though on the weird, right? Like it's just
Oh,
all out there
yes.
now.
I mean,
Can't
yeah,
shove it down
praise
forever.
be for that. Yeah.
But yeah.
Um, yeah, so I was in this process of practicing meditation, and then at the same time at work, I was starting to read a bunch of personal development books. And I got this idea of like, oh, let's do a book club for all the women at work who are
Mm.
interested. For those of you who are curious, the first book club that I led was for Playing Big by Tara Moore. At the time, it was like a very pivotal book for women in corporate careers to read. And I led a little book club discussion. And one of the exercises that I came up with at the time was write down something that you secretly want to do, that you're afraid to share out loud, or that you haven't told anyone about yet. And I wrote down two. I wrote down two because I like to break the rules. And the first one was publish a novel, but that wasn't really a secret because I've been
Okay.
writing creative fiction since I was in second grade. So I was kind of cheating with that one. But I shared that one anyway because
Mm.
my actual secret dream that I had was to become a yoga teacher. And I didn't realize that until that moment. The act of needing to write something down, it just
Mhm.
flew into my head and I was
Yep.
kind of taken aback by it because here I was new to yoga, just doing YouTube videos. I think I went to a studio like 3 times or something, and
Wow.
it came through. Yeah. And
Wow.
so that night, I kid you not, like that night I get home, I'm checking my personal inbox, and there's
Hmm.
a newsletter from the local yoga studio, and it says, "We are now enrolling for our teacher training."
Of course. But
Of
of
course.
course.
Talk about a
I know.
breadcrumb, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe like
Oh,
a
I
loaf
love
of
it.
bread, really. Yeah.
You
So I
know,
signed up.
thank you. I'm so glad you did. What's coming to me is Kabbalistically, the idea is that everything's available right now. And it's like, what are we tuning into? What are we able to receive? It's like that email would have gone out anyway, probably, right? It's not like they
Yeah.
were like, oh, last
Right.
minute, let's start a yoga teacher training or whatever. But you wouldn't have noticed it, right?
Right.
And to your point on like the writing it down, I think that embedded something of now your brain seeking, because that's what our brain
Hmm.
does. And I just think that's so cool. So I love it. I love it that it came and you noticed it. And then of course the taking action part is part of
Yes.
following the
You got to
breadcrumbs,
do it.
which you did.
Hmm.
Yay. Love it. So then,
Yeah.
okay, you did your yoga teacher training,
I did
right?
it. I did the yoga teacher training. Yeah. And it was just breadcrumb after breadcrumb. My cousin owns a swim team for kids, and she needed someone to offer cross training. So I taught yoga to teens and middle schoolers for a number of years. And then my office was hosting a wellness week for open
Mhm.
enrollment. And I was like, well, I know wellness now. Can I teach a yoga
Right.
class? So I taught a yoga class. It was so popular, they asked me to teach at work for twice a month. And I did that for
Wow.
5 years, actually. Even during COVID, I
Wow. I
taught
didn't know that.
virtually. Yeah. And so I think it's just, zooming out, it's an
Mhm.
example of when we clear out, I don't know if you can swear on this, but just picture all the sweary words. Okay, great. Clear out all the shit, right?
Yeah.
Get rid of that. The noise from other people's opinions of what you should do, right? What success you think success should look like.
Hmm.
The compounding of negative symptoms in your body, right? Clearing out that energy, then suddenly you actually have space to receive those
Hmm.
intuitive hits of, wow, maybe I want to become a yoga teacher. Oh,
Right.
what happens if I offer a class at work? Whoa, maybe I want to be teaching kids too. And just following and saying yes to those actually gives you, in the moment, a sense of purpose, and it compounds that feeling of purpose that
Yep.
I think we're all really looking for.
Totally. And then as you do it, you're embodying it. So now you have the
Mm-hmm.
evidence and have built your confidence that, oh, I can do this because it becomes a little bit more familiar each time that you do it. So
Yeah.
that's it's all connected. Now, what you shared, I mean, it's such a cool story. I'm sure in the moment. Well, I'm not sure. So my question to you is, was it as easy as you're making it sound? Like, oh, I wrote down the secret dream and I was curious and I signed up and I did it. And sure, I stayed at my job for 5 years, but like everything was more balanced now because I was doing this. Like, did you have fears, resistance, inner doubts? Like, tell us if there was any of that stuff that was coming up during, I guess, that 5 year process.
Yeah.
And it's okay if not. I'm just curious. Like,
Oh,
could it
yeah.
be that easy?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it can be that easy
Mm,
if a person doesn't have programming that it has to be hard.
right.
But I had a lot of programming that it has to be hard.
That's
If you want to become an entrepreneur, you have to be ready to face every single shadow you have, right? It's the deepest healing experience you could possibly sign up for in this lifetime.
whoa. That's a
That's,
massive statement. Like,
yeah,
we
that's
either
what I would
repeat that
say.
or pause. I feel
Yeah,
like people need to hear. Whoa. No, can you say that one more time?
yeah.
That's a really big thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say becoming an entrepreneur is the deepest healing process that you could possibly sign up for in this lifetime. And I think a lot of people don't realize that when they say yes to a business.
Right.
They're thinking about the freedom in their workday. They're thinking about the a non-existent ceiling on their earnings, right? They're thinking about creating a legacy for their family. But what I've personally found is that when you say yes to starting your own thing,
Hmm.
especially if it's something that is in the personal development or professional development field, right? Especially as a coach, as opposed
Hmm.
to a lesser extent, maybe if you're selling accessories or something, right? You may
Hmm.
not have to go through the same kind of
Right.
level of deep unearthing. But
Yeah.
for me, it was really intense. It was really intense. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I really wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, during that 5 year process, it was this slow unwinding of all of the conditioning that I had around money, the conditioning I had around work, the conditioning I had around shiny object syndrome and creation, right? And deadlines, right?
Yeah.
And it was also a crash course in how can I honor and maintain a larger sense of safety for my nervous system and my 3D life while I
Hmm.
experiment with creating a new reality for myself. Because unlike the very popular story of entrepreneurship where you quit and then the next day you make six figures and life is
Right.
grand,
That's totally how it works.
right? There's a reason why there are stats out there that the majority of businesses fail within the first 5 years. And I
Yep.
think it's because of this healing journey. It's like not everybody's really ready to sign up for that. I feel like a completely different person than I did when I was working in tech.
I'm sure. Is there anything that surprised you about yourself during the transition?
Yeah, I think what surprised me the most was this like good girl, good student limiting
Mm,
belief in terms of how sticky it is. Because
yeah.
as a quick little backstory, I was like a very good student, did all
Mm-hmm.
my homework.
Right.
I went to a very rigorous public high school in
Mm-hmm.
Silicon Valley, and I went through academia. I was going to get a PhD. That's a story for a different day. Pivoted. And so when it came to starting my business, I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm a rebel. Like, I don't need to work a 9 to 5. I'm gonna, work on my own schedule and get in touch with my feelings and all of
Mm-hmm.
this stuff. And even though I was still doing it in the small hours of my day, I felt this pressure of like, gotta produce, gotta make the thing,
Yeah.
what's my timeline? Um, and so when I work with people who have a secret dream, like starting a business, I
Mm-hmm.
always recommend that you have some kind of tether or like stability
Mm-hmm.
that keeps you grounded
Mm-hmm.
as you are starting to make changes.
Yeah.
Because if you just rip off the band-aid without doing that deeper healing process, you're just going to
Mm-hmm.
replicate what you just left.
So,
Or you're going to flatline and need like 6 months to recover. And I'm not saying
yep.
either is bad. It's just like,
Mhm.
is that the journey that you want to be on?
Right. Yeah. No, there's so much unlearning. I mean, I was at Google for 13 years and I lived by my calendar, and there are certain
Yeah.
ways that you set goals and everything had this structure to it. And then I'm like, freedom, screw all
Hmm.
that, divine feminine. Like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I really like, and I think I needed that process of
Totally.
not having the structure, and then sort of stepping back into it in the ways that feel right for me. But it's so true on how sticky things could be, right? But that's a really good point, that it's a process, because your identity is completely different,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And you talked about that a little bit, but if there's anything that you want to add around that, whether it was like grieving your old identity, needing to explain your new identity, what was that like for you?
Yeah, it was really interesting because in this slow unfolding process, I
Mm-hmm.
had to make a decision at some point where I had part of me wanted to get promoted and take on more
Mm-hmm.
responsibility at work. And then I had a larger part of me realize that's the opposite of what I want. I actually just want to coast as much as possible so that I can devote more time and energy to my growing business and treat it less like a hobby and more like my exit plan.
Right.
And yet those kind of opposing energies were both really strong. And I ended up choosing and having a really tough conversation with my manager of, hey, you know what? I actually just want to stay in this role and I just want to do the like code the emails. I just want to put them out. I don't want to do the strategy anymore. At that point, I had already expanded the team, and so I could delegate, which is a strange move professionally, right? To be like, I don't actually want to be a team leader, and I don't actually want to have any input on strategy whatsoever, and I don't want to
Right.
do data analytics. I just want to do the menial grunt work, please. And that's a strange choice. And yet, by making that, I
Mm-hmm.
actually freed up so much more capacity
Right.
to then work on my business. And then I did benefit from 2020 hitting
Mm-hmm.
with COVID,
Mm. Right.
going full time remote. Suddenly I didn't have to like squirrel away into a conference room to take a
Right.
coaching call. I
Right.
could just truly be going back and forth in my
Right.
business and my day job. And then I did eventually quit my day job in
Mm-hmm.
2022, but not completely.
Mm-hmm.
I kept about 10, 12 hours of consulting
Mm.
with the same company as my nice, gentle off ramp so that I still
Love
had
it.
that stability, but I could slowly grow into my entrepreneur life.
I love that. I think it's very relatable and practical for how other people could potentially manage. So, how lovely and lucky that your manager was supportive and
Yeah,
what you asked for, you were able to do. Uh, but you wouldn't know if you didn't have the conversation, right? So,
right.
have the conversation, whatever that looks like for you, is what I'm getting out of this. And then the consulting piece, and just in general, to your point, like the off ramp is so helpful. A lot of people think that a pivot requires blowing up their life, making a leap overnight. And your story is such a good testament that it doesn't have to be that way. Do you think that for some people, though, like sort of doing it overnight can work and is the right choice?
Yeah, I think it depends.
Hmm.
If you have a really strong and resilient nervous system, you
Mm,
can do it. And if you have a great support system, if you
right,
have what one of my mentors calls a fuck you fund, like if you have all of your ducks in a row,
right.
yeah, you can totally do it, right? Like you did that.
Yeah.
And it's great. And I think the key is just opening our eyes to see that there are options,
Yeah.
because oftentimes when we feel trapped in a job or trapped in an old reality and we're like
Hmm.
itchy, literally like our skin feels
Right.
itchy, right? We want to take off that identity. It can
Yeah.
feel so sexy to just blow up
Hmm.
your life, right? It can feel so
Right.
sexy to send that resignation letter in a
Right.
hot rage, right? Believe me, I know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and just think about the little baby business
Right.
and how energy has an equal and opposite reaction. And so even when fast forward to when I left my consulting gig, even though at that point I was like very ready, it
Hmm.
still was really scary. And
Yeah.
leaving that, sending that resignation in, then brought in a whole other wave of like, oh, let me look at my money beliefs that I thought I healed already, but like clearly we need to look at this, right? And so I think it's just, are you ready? Do you have the support system? Do you have the capacity to navigate the inevitable healing process that's going to come
Right.
up? And so
Yeah.
that's why I always recommend like nervous system regulation, really working with the language of your body. So it's not
Yeah.
just your mind is running the shots in like a hot-headed moment, but your
Right.
whole team, right? Your whole self,
Yeah.
mind, body, spirit is on board.
And tell us how your mind, body, spirit is feeling these days.
Nowadays, I feel great.
Yay.
And and also there's still work to be done, right? And in entrepreneurship, no matter what field of business you end up choosing, there are just so many options. And there's a new one tomorrow and another one the next day and another expert telling you this is the only way to do things. And so I think continually the the invitation that I've been receiving from my guides, from myself, is like really trusting my own authority. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. And I could try out creating my own AI tool to do X, Y, and Z because that's the hottest thing right now. And also, isn't that a distraction from what I really want to be doing here and like what I'm really meant to say? And I think there can be this tendency to jump
Mhm.
ship on a strategy before I've fully let it gestate. And so
Right.
these days I'm really into this like slow,
Slow it
yummy,
down.
yeah, like sinking into the mud process of taking the pressure off, letting it be easy, but like really focusing on what is working as
Hmm.
opposed to trying to like find the moonshot moment, which I
Yeah.
think a lot of us have a tendency to try and do is like, oh, will this strategy save me? Well, this strategy will work, right? Well, what about this one? I think this one's actually going to be faster.
Hmm.
So I would say, regardless of where you're at in your
Hmm.
entrepreneurial journey, is like the more that you can cultivate that deep sense of self-trust and
Yep.
come back to center, source the ideas from within, the more resilient your business will be long term.
Right. What's coming to me now is intuition. How do you reconcile the strategy and the things that are logical with the intuition?
Yeah, I'm all about the blend. So I always start my day with some kind of intuitive practice.
Mm.
And I like to change it up because sometimes consistency can be boring for the brain.
Ooh, wait, what's an example though of an intuitive practice? Maybe something that
Yeah.
anyone could do, maybe if they've never done.
Yeah. So, well, one we could actually do right now. So if you have a
Let's
book,
do it. Take a
right?
book.
Take a book.
Take a
Yep.
book.
And you could, yeah. And it
I've
could
never
be,
read a book.
I recommend not like a textbook, right? So
Okay.
something that has some kind of wisdom. It could be a spiritual text, if our listeners are spiritual or religious. It could just be a personal development book, right? So I got Playing Big right here.
I've
I
got
also
so
love,
many, but the one that was most accessible, creating Monday.
ooh, amazing. We might all need that title
Focus.
next. We'll have to have a book club. So go ahead and take a breath.
Okay.
Inhale through your nose, out your mouth. Good. And maybe there's a question you're wrestling with today. I also just like to go with, what do I need to know today?
Ooh, I'm gonna go with
What do
that
I
one.
need to know today? And then just go ahead when you feel connected to your breath, flip to a random page, and then see what it has to say to you. And you can read like the first line. Um, Oftentimes it's very synchronistic for me, and I have to have like a little laugh. Well, let's see, what's your first line?
Well, the line that came to me, I had underlined, so that's why it stood out. And its symbols are very powerful because they bypass all your thoughts and belief systems and represent the pure energy of your soul.
Ooh,
Oh, so
juicy.
so the lesson, right? Because intuition is also like your lens of it and your perception. So for
Yep.
me, it's like, okay, let's notice some symbols today, Irina. That's what you need to pay attention to today.
Hmm. I
What
love
about
that.
you? What did you get?
Yeah, well, this is funny given what we were just talking about. The line that stood out was Jane had always been a high achieving student.
You can't make this shit up. Oh my
You can't
God.
make this shit up. I know,
Oh my
right?
God.
But
I
yeah,
love it.
so I like using that practice. If we come back up to the question, it's what do I need to
Yeah.
know today, right? So
Yeah.
it's then
I like that. I'm gonna write it down.
that can inform how you then engage with the strategy. Do you see what I'm saying here?
I do.
So start within, but then interact with your mental field, right? Start with your intuition, then go to the strategy. So for me, for
Love it.
example, right, with a high achieving student, it's like,
Hmm.
okay, like let's look at maybe where that energy is misplaced or like where that energy could be applied.
Right.
You could look at like, what narratives are circling around. Obviously
Hmm.
it's just very apt for this conversation.
Yeah.
And for you with the signs, like maybe you're going to see a sign today that's going to
I'm
direct
excited for
you.
it. Let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, so that's a really simple one. I also love using oracle cards, meditation, breath work, chanting. I'm really into chanting these days.
So
So
many tools.
really anything that's going to like help you connect
Right.
because we receive so much input from other people,
Right.
right? We
Yep.
social media, our loved ones,
Yep.
the gurus that we follow or what have you, the
Hmm.
emails that you get, the text
Yep.
messages. So if you start from yourself,
Yep.
then you're better able to navigate that with the lens of, well, does this actually resonate with me?
Right. Okay. I have
Mhm.
to ask a question. How do you tell the difference between intuition and fear?
Yeah. So I have a long answer and I'll give a medium answer.
Love a
Long
medium.
answer will take us down a rabbit hole, but the medium answer is that there are many different
We'll
intuitive
do another
styles.
episode for that.
Yes, I love that. Yeah, there are many different intuitive styles, and some of those intuitive styles can be more mistaken for fear than others. So I'll just kind of
Mm.
lay that seed, plant that seed there.
Yep.
When it comes to intuition, intuition is always moving you in a positive direction for the highest good. Fear is moving you in a direction, a positive direction, one would argue, towards
Theoretically.
safety,
Hmm. Mm.
right? So our fear can be misinformed, but
Hmm.
intuition is never misinformed. Highest good, safety. We need
Yep.
both, right? We need
Hmm.
to feel safe in order to actually
Hmm.
receive our intuition and then act on the highest good. So, whenever I talk to people about working with their intuition, number
Hmm.
one is do some kind of regulation practice, something to calm you, some kind of self care. There are many different ways to do it. Then maybe do an intuitive practice like pulling a quote from a book. That's why we took a couple breaths, right? Because if you're not open to receiving your
Hmm.
intuition,
Hmm.
then your limbic brain, your survival brain, is going to be operating from a place of, is this going to kill me or is this not? And most of
Right.
the time, our like best ideas feel like they're going to kill us, but they're not. They're just outside of our comfort zone.
Right.
Whereas if you receive an intuitive hit, it'll feel, you might see it or
Mm.
you might hear it or you might think it, but it'll have this kind of like zingy, neutral quality as opposed to be charged with
Hmm.
emotion. So,
Yep,
yeah, so like when you see your sign today, which you will, you'll have to
that's right.
update
I'll,
everybody
I'll
in the
text you after
comments.
so you know.
Yes, please do.
Yeah.
When you see your sign today, it'll be just like a, oh, duh, right? There's
Right,
no charge
right.
versus if you had a fear reaction and be like, oh my God, if I follow that sign, like I'm gonna have to
Right.
tell everybody. And, it's just like spiral. So there's a very different energy to them.
It makes sense. Yeah. You're the one who taught me that intuition is neutral. And the way that I've
Mhm.
been describing it is like there's a period at the end of it versus like an exclamation
Yes.
mark or even question marks, right? Because it
Yeah.
just is, which
Yeah.
has been really helpful. But that's a question that I get a lot. So your take is really helpful. And as we start to transition to a close, did you feel like you had to wait to feel confident to take action on the transition and the breadcrumbs that you were following? Or did you move while you were uncertain?
Love this. So they say that confidence comes from competence, right? But then how do you actually create competence if you're not confident? So there's this like catch 22 quality to
Yeah.
confidence that I think like chokes people up often.
Yeah.
So I would say that like yes, confidence does come from competence, which you
Mhm.
build by taking action. And it's also a state of being that you can activate in an instant. Because we can, yes, an
Tell us
instant.
more.
Yeah. So any state of being, any emotional state, you can activate without actually experiencing the external reality of that. Because the same center in our brain that processes lived experiences
Mhm.
also processes imagined experiences. You can actually feel the emotions that you imagine without
Mhm.
actually living them. It's a little bit of a brain teaser there. So the key is a both and, I would say. Regulate your
Mhm.
nervous system that creates
Mhm.
safety. Then activate a state of confidence. Remember a time you were really confident. Feel that in your body. Then take action. And the more that you do that, you're going to
Mhm.
put in the reps, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so by putting in the reps, you're going to actually build that competence, which
Right.
then gives you lived
Right.
confidence.
So confidence and competence makes me want to ask you around success. So has your definition of success changed from what you were doing before to what you're doing now, and how so?
Asking the good questions here. I
I
love it.
know. Thank you. It's what I'm here for.
The meaning of life. Yeah,
Let's go.
I think the easiest, clearest answer that's flying in right now is that before the last 5 years, we'll say, I think I
Mhm.
defined success as an external result or external picture. And now I
Mhm.
really define it as an internal feeling
Mm.
because I can only control the external picture to a certain extent,
Mhm.
but my internal feeling state is mine to hold.
Right.
And when I feel successful, I
Mhm.
create success. So it's just like the
Right.
confidence, competence, brain teaser we just
Yes.
talked about. Yeah.
Will you share what success feels like to you more specifically
Yeah.
that you would name?
I think it's very personal.
Yeah, for sure.
For me, it's a feeling of being really centered and grounded in my body, aware of all five senses,
Mhm.
which is another way to say present, but like physically aware of all five
Mhm.
senses
Mhm.
and having the feeling of like, yeah, I did that. Period.
Boom, just like that. Okay, so for people who are listening who feel like either life looks good on paper, but something feels off, or something just feels off and things don't look good on paper, where should they begin?
Yeah, I would say number one is to get curious.
Mm,
Just get curious. And I would take the pressure off of that curiosity because that energy of like, I gotta find the answer oftentimes narrows our field of vision and then we can't actually find answers, ironically.
mhm,
So
mhm,
taking the pressure off, getting curious, almost playing this like game of wonder and like asking yourself like, what could be possible if I did this today instead of that? Or like what could be possible if I took a moment to relax and regulate my nervous system before responding to this comment that
Mm.
my coworker
Mhm.
made? And then how does that feel? What could be
Right.
possible if I said yes to the yoga teacher training, right? So it's kind of this, yeah, it's just the gentle relaxation process of the
Mhm.
expectations and the old habit loops that are
Yep.
running.
Yep.
Because when we treat it more like, I call it like a bite-sized experiment, then we can be in this mode of learning
Mhm.
as opposed to in this mode of like it has to work or it won't.
Right.
And when we get back into that all or nothing mindset, that can just keep us in the same loop that we're trying to escape.
Oh my God, Emily, I feel like we could keep going and going. How can people find you?
Yeah, my website's the best spot. So it's
Okay.
Emily Schickli, SCHICKLI.com. And I have a couple of free resources on there so you can like gobble them up. One of them that you might find helpful, especially if you're feeling overwhelmed, that's on there right now is called my intuitive to-do list. And this is a 5-step process to help you reduce the overwhelm, remove it from your brain, put the to-dos out, and free up more mental space so that you can start to explore, be curious about a potential secret dream. And I am also on Instagram. I have a little baby YouTube channel, so you can find me there, but predominantly my website. And I love writing emails. I really do. I know it's old school, but that's like my love letter, love language here. So if you sign up for one of the free resources, that's really the best way to be in touch.
And I read every single newsletter. His newsletter is great. I will, of course, share the link to your website. So if you didn't get the spelling of Emily's last name, don't you worry. It'll be in the description. Emily, thank you so much. This was super fun.
Absolutely. I
And I'm
loved
so
it
glad you were
too.
here.
I hope this resonated with you all. We'll connect.